What's up, followers? Dave here from CNC 3D. So in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at how to troubleshoot Nighthawk Wi-Fi related issues. So these typically can occur when you may be, say, in the middle of a job. We're going to take a look at common things that can definitely cause problems and how to troubleshoot different scenarios when these things occur. So coming up very shortly, as you can see, we're in the middle of a job here, and all of a sudden you see something like this. Now, judging by what this says here, it looks like your Nighthawk has obviously been disconnected from Commander, but it is important for us to take a look at the reason why this has actually occurred. So the first thing that we do need to address is some of the more common known issues that we are aware of. So let's go ahead now and take a look at some of the most common things which seem to cause disconnects on the Nighthawk. So some of the most common issues we find is with Wi-Fi range extenders, older Starlink routers, or Telstra 5G routers. So that would be the Telstra little small dongle units that you charge up via the USB cable on the side. They can be a little bit problematic when you try to use your Nighthawk on that same network. So if you do have one of these three things, it may be a good idea to simply swap over to Bluetooth and forego using the Wi-Fi functionality on your Nighthawk. So it's not too difficult to switch over to Bluetooth. Just follow the second half of the tutorial video within the Connections tab of Commander in order to be able to swap over. So the important thing to note is when the disconnection occurred is, did the job keep running? Or did the job stop when it happened? Now, let's go ahead first and take a look if the job kept on running and continued on despite the connection in Commander. This means that the job has been running on the SD card and is still continuing on despite the disconnect. So let's just jump back in here. We're just going to OK out of this error message. And what we're going to do is we're going to test to see whether or not the Nighthawk is still currently on your network. So I'm just going to copy this IP address here. And all you need to do is go into a browser and just paste it into there. So that's just the IP address. So as you can see, even though we're currently disconnected here in Commander, the Nighthawk itself is actually still on the network. So that means that you should be able to continue and see your job running in here without too many issues. So that's actually a good bit of news. So that means that what you can do at this point is you can choose to resume from here at this point in time. And most likely what's happened is there's been something that's happened on the PC that's caused Commander to drop out. Now, we're not 100% certain what the cause of this is when it happens, but we have seen specific installations of Windows 11 that seems to actually cause this problem. So it may be a specific thing on your computer that's causing this to occur, or it could be an antivirus program. The good thing is, and the most important thing is, that jobs still do continue to run, which is exactly what we need to happen. That is the main priority of what the Nighthawk has to do. So you should be able to have at least some form of control by accessing this interface when you try to connect to it. So just to confirm, all we did is we copied the IP address from Commander here, and we just pasted it into the address bar of our browser and checked whether or not the web interface would appear. Now, let's take a look at another scenario, and that is in a situation where the job did actually stop, and that means that something has gone wrong on the Nighthawk. Now, there are a couple of common things that this could be. Now, the good news is there are some tests that you can do to try to determine exactly what's happened. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to use one of the deep troubleshooting tools that's found within the help menu. We need to connect back up to the Nighthawk. So in some cases, when the job has stopped, you basically just need to hit connect in here and reconnect back up to it again. So the next step is for us to connect up the USB cable to your Nighthawk. What we're going to do is we're going to click on the help menu here. And we're going to go to the COM port monitor down the bottom here, which is the bottom troubleshooting tool. At time of recording the video, this is the bottom option, but I have actually added an additional button under here, which is coming out soon, which will let you basically test drive Commander without needing to connect to an actual controller. So in this case, we're just going to click on the COM port monitor here. Now, this is an independent monitor which only allows you to see the data that's trafficked via USB and use it while you're on Bluetooth. But we do not recommend having them both connected at the same time. So it's not really possible for you to have Commander connected via COM port in here and in here as well. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that Commander is back up and connected to your router itself. What we're going to do is test whether or not this is working in here by sending a $ and capital I for India. And if you just hit send, you can see that it comes back with the current Nighthawk version. Now, the reason why we have this window here is I've added a handy feature into the Nighthawk where if something goes wrong internally within the Nighthawk itself, it will be output, or there'll be a whole bunch of data that will be output through the USB COM port. So the purpose of this separate monitor is just to sit here and look for that data. Now, there is one surefire way that you can eventually trigger one of these to occur, which will give us a backtrace. But basically, I'll show you how to do that or how that looks now. So I'm going to try and send a few reset commands, and I'm going to try to basically overload the Nighthawk here. So I know how, there we go. It's done it straight away for us, which is great. And you can see here that it's already trying to reconnect back to the Wi-Fi. And as you can see, it's dropped out here. Now, if we have a look in here, you'll see that we have this backtrace. And what you can do is you can actually copy this. So we just basically need from this backtrace point here, or you can take pretty much all of the data that you've received in here. And basically, if you send that through to us, I can actually see on our back end here exactly where the problem has occurred. So I can use this feedback in order to be able to determine at exactly what point within the firmware of the Nighthawk the problem happened at. So if you were to copy, say, for example, all of this text, you can just go into text options here and just go copy all data text. You can then basically create a new email to CNC3D, which you can email us at solutions@cnc3d.com.au, and just send through that particular backtrace there, and then we can take a look and analyze that. So that is basically how this works. So essentially, to use this tool effectively, let's just go in here and we're just going to clear all data in here. Now, basically what we would normally suggest that you do is to disconnect in here. Let's just actually get this to reset. So obviously we did see that the Nighthawk reconnected automatically back to the network after the issue occurred. So you would say, for example, get ready to run your job in here. Go into your serial port manager here. And let me just clear that there. And basically you just want to keep this open here. Don't send any data to it while your job goes ahead and runs. And hopefully what should happen is eventually you may end up with a backtrace in the middle of the job. And so then that way we can see exactly what's happened. Now, it is important to note that if we go through here and we run this job and the job happens to stop, but we don't get any data that's been output here, this may indicate one of the following things. So it may mean that there is an intermittent problem with your power supply, and you may look at swapping that out or testing with another power supply. It may also mean that your power supply is simply too small to run all of your motors for your machine, which we have actually seen before. So as a minimum, say for example, if you had a Queen Bee or a QB2 or an Ultimate Bee kit, you want at least a 350 watt power supply in order to be able to run the machine. And there is the possibility that your power supply may simply be overloading and very quickly turning itself off and then coming back on, which can cause this fault to occur and not give us a backtrace. And then, of course, there's also the possibility that it may actually be a problem with your Nighthawk, which is usually going to be power related. Now, these things can be fairly easy to spot because in the case of the Nighthawk, the fan may not spin on the Nighthawk or the internal regulator may be getting hot there. Either way, you can get in touch with our support team and we can take a look at it. Or if it's outside of the standard Nighthawk warranty, you can just look at swapping out the Nighthawk, but definitely investigate the power supplies first. Now, let's say that you are in the middle of an SD job and you have the serial COM port monitor open and you do get a backtrace that appears. There are a few common things that can be the cause of the issue. So the first thing is that it could be an SD card corruption issue or Option 2, it could be potentially just a fault with the SD card job itself. So if you find that most jobs complete perfectly fine and it's 1 or 2 jobs that seem to have the issue, you may look at simply deleting that job off your Nighthawk and re-uploading it again, may resolve it. Alternatively, you can eject the SD card out of the Nighthawk and you can put it into your PC and do a proper format on there. It can just be a quick format, is usually perfectly fine. Just make sure to keep the file type FAT32 and that should give you the best results. Now, another thing that it could be is you are simply polling too fast. Now, this is commonly a problem with laser jobs when you're in laser mode on your Nighthawk and you have a very small resolution job. And basically what you need to do, if you go into the settings menu of Commander and click on communication, you will see in there that there is a section where you can adjust the polling rate. The default in there on Wi-Fi is, I believe, about 500 milliseconds. You can look at changing this to, say, 800 or 900 or even 1,000. Basically, the only difference it will make is when your numbers update at the top left in Commander, it will just be a little bit slower, basically, in doing that. But this may actually ensure that your jobs do complete. Now, the next thing that can possibly be an issue is a hard e-stop being triggered repeatedly. And that's exactly what I was doing earlier when I was trying to show you what a backtrace looks like. Now, if you have an external e-stop switch and it may be malfunctioning, it may not be working correctly, sometimes you'll press and you'll hold it in and it may actually completely reset the entire controller back to normal, which means you'll lose your positioning and you'll obviously need to reestablish a connection to it when that does occur. I am actively working on how to avoid this. It typically isn't a big problem because the majority of the time when you are looking at hitting the e-stop on your controller, there's a reason why you're doing it, and ultimately you want the job to stop anyway. So basically, it's probably not going to be a big problem for you, but there is the possibility that you can trigger these things this way, which I'm just going to do right now so you can actually see how it looks when it happens in the middle of a job. So I'm going to be trying to basically mash the e-stop pin here, and there you go. So it has just popped up there. So basically, this is the data that you would want to be sending to us again so that we can obviously be able to analyze it, or for you to be able to try to work out what is going on here after you go through the standard troubleshooting steps that we've just covered. And this should pretty much address all of the things that we have seen with the Nighthawk with regards to when it does disconnect in Commander. We hope that this video has given some of you a bit of clarity about what is actually happening, the different scenarios in which things can actually happen, and what you can do to try to help yourself get back on track. I hope this video has been helpful for all of you today, and we really appreciate all of your feedback on this, and we hope this video helps you guys get the most out of your Nighthawk. Have a great day, and we'll catch up soon.